Dragon Riders, written by Alexander Laws, narrated by Colette Redgrave. Chapter 1. Brothers. Snow had fallen thickly all night long, and now, in the early hours of morning, it lay deeply, blanketing the countryside. It was still dark as three small shadowy figures slipped through the back door of the old monastery. Carefully, they closed the heavy oak door behind them and turned the key in the lock. Two boys and a girl shivered against the cold air and pulled their cloaks tightly about their bodies. The extra layers that they were wearing did little to keep out the bitter easterly wind. Their clothes were not the type to protect against extreme weather. One of the boys stomped his boots heavily to keep warm. "Shh!" hissed his two companions. "Do you want us to get caught before we've even had a chance to try out this?" said Daniel. He was holding a large wooden sledge, which he shook vigorously in front of the other boy's face. "I'm sorry," said Joe, shivering. It's just that I've never felt so cold." "Come on, let's go," hissed Lizelle at the boys. "Or are you two going to stand around gossiping like a couple of old fishwives?" Before they could answer, she turned away, smirking as she did so, and trotted silently across the garden towards the iron gate in the far wall. The boys followed quickly behind her, the snow crunching underfoot. The gate creaked noisily as Lizelle swung it open, and sounded to them as if it might awaken the entire country. They held their breaths, expecting uproar from within the monastery, but all remained quiet. Swiftly they slipped through the gateway, and skirting the old building, they kept low behind the outer wall before heading off into the fields. They stayed close to the hedges, keeping out of sight of any watchful eyes. Lizelle and Joe ran ahead, and Daniel followed, pulling the sledge behind him. "What if someone sees our tracks?" asked Joe, when he and Lizelle stopped for a rest some way from the monastery. "They will see our tracks. We know that. Look, we know we're going to get caught eventually, but it'll be worth it," replied Lizelle. "Now come on, will you, before the monks wake up and realise that we're missing?" "Yes, come on, Daniel. Please try to keep up," said Joe. Daniel had been lagging behind and had just caught up with Lizelle and Joe. He gasped breathlessly at Joe's remark, but before he had time to complain or even to rest, they were off again into the dark. It was the first time that any of them had ever seen snow, and they intended to make the most of it, despite the inevitable consequences. Daniel took a deep breath, and lowering his head, he pulled hard on the rope and trudged through the thick snow after his friends. After a lot of puffing and panting, they reached the top of the hill that overlooked the monastery and looked about them. The snow stretched across the countryside to every horizon. They stood and watched as the sun rose, turning the snow-covered landscape a pale red. "It looks like blood," stated Daniel. "No, blood's much darker than that," said Joe. "Oh, and since when did you become the world's authority on the colour of blood?" teased Daniel. "Since last year, when I fell down the stairs and smacked my nose on the floor," replied Joe knowledgeably. "Good point," said Lizelle. "I'd almost forgotten about that. I didn't think you were ever going to stop bleeding." "I should have remembered," added Daniel. "I was the one who had to clear it all up." "Well, then, you shouldn't have tripped me in the first place, should you?" "It was an accident, all right." "So you keep saying, but we've only got your word for it," said Joe, grinning at his friend. They looked back the way they had come. Half a mile away to the south they could see the monastery, and a little way beyond lay the snow-capped village of Crickle. Small villages with their prominent churches dotted the white landscape. Well-kept farms were surrounded by neat little fields, and on the horizon lay the nearest town. "How far is it to Sothersby?" asked Joe, looking towards the town. "About 20 miles by road, I think," answered Lizelle. "I remember passing through it on my way here," she added quietly, thinking back to that painful day. The three friends gazed awkwardly in silence, each remembering their own arrival at the monastery. "The old place doesn't look so big from up here," said Daniel, breaking the uneasy quiet.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?